Hey y'all! In this video, I'm going to get into two more of your Vectric questions. I'm going to answer questions about bitmap tracing and the noise filter, and I'm going to answer a question about the separate last pass in a profile toolpath. Just to remind you, this afternoon at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be hosting a live Q&A session right here on my channel where we can discuss anything and everything I've presented in this video. So I hope you'll join me. So first, let's go ahead and get into bitmap tracing and the noise filter. Now, I have a session of Aspire open, and I've gone ahead and I've imported the Volkswagen Beetle bitmap that I used for a previous video on bitmap tracing and node editing. I'll put a link to that video up here in a card right about now. Now the question comes in when it comes to the noise filter. Let me go ahead with the bitmap selected, and I'll come up here to the icon to trace the bitmap. And because it's a black and white line drawing, I'm going to be using black and white. If I go ahead without touching any of these sliders and click preview, it does the trace and it looks pretty good. But if we look up here in some of these smaller areas, we see these little rectangles here and some smaller fragments that we may or may not want to keep for our tracing. Let me zoom in a little bit and show you what this is. Let me show you what's going on. When the bitmap trace function attempts to put vectors around these lines from the image, it doesn't follow them exactly 100%. That's why we don't get this jagged, blocky appearance. You'll see we have a white space here in the middle of this black line and another one here. This rectangle is the bitmap trace function trying to trace these little open white areas here. Now, if we look, I have my corner fit set at about 70%, so it's not trying to fit those super tightly and follow every single contour, which is why you see it's off slightly. But I have my noise filter set at 2. This is 2 pixels from the bitmap. So anything smaller than 2 pixels is being ignored. And this is where this noise filter comes in and can help you to clean up these images without having to go in and delete all of these by hand. Now, I should preface this by saying this is 100% up to you. If you want to bring the noise filter down to 0 and click preview, you'll see it's going to attempt to get every single area that it can. And adds noise to the mix. We've got little areas here, little areas down here in the headlight rim. There is all kinds of noise in this tracing. But by adjusting the noise filter up, let me take it up to the middle, about 5, and click preview, and you can see that that has eliminated some of that noise. Now I've only got the one piece up here, but I still have these up here. But the noise that was down here and here is gone. So basically, if you find yourself looking at a bunch of little rectangles here and you don't want them, or you don't know if you want them, try adjusting your noise filter. I'll bring it all the way up to 10, click preview, and that removed all of these small fragments here, all these little artifacts. There's a few up here yet that I can go back through and I can decide if I want to include them. Once I've got that noise filter adjusted up to 10, I can't go any further. So if I decide I don't want these fragments, I can delete them separately. With my corner fit, I'm going to leave it where it's at. My noise filter up here at the max. I don't want to group these vectors. I like the preview that I've received so far. I'll go ahead and click Apply. Then I'll close the Trace Bitmap function. Then immediately come up and turn off my bitmap layer so that I'm just looking at the tracing. Now I can come in and decide, do I want these vectors? I don't know that I do, so I'm going to go ahead and select all three of those. It grouped the vectors anyway. So I'll ungroup, then select those three and just delete them. I don't see how they add to the design. This is a little bit iffy as well. So I'll go ahead and delete this one and delete that one. I see what's happening here. This is supposed to be sunshine glinting off of these. I think I can live without those as well. I think that'll do. I don't see how those add anything to the design. And in fact, it's a lot cleaner now. It looks a lot better to me anyway. I also think I can live without this dome light here. So I'll go ahead and delete those. I don't think that adds to the design either. So with that finished, I can now go ahead and select all of my vectors. Now I'll group them. Then come over here and we'll do a V-carve toolpath. Got all my vectors selected. I'm going to shut off a flat depth because I don't think that there's anything here deep enough to get down to that flat depth of 0.1. So I'm just going to let the bit decide how deep to cut. I'm not going to use a clearance tool because, again, I don't think anything out here is big enough to need a clearance tool. So we'll just use this name. We'll calculate the toolpath. And I will change my toolpath color to black so you can see it. And we'll preview the toolpath. And there we go. We have our Volkswagen. And I think it looks pretty nice. I don't think that those extra artifacts up here or down here would have added anything to the design. I think rather than just confusing everything by leaving them in, I think it was a good idea to go ahead and eliminate them. So that's one way you can handle those little rectangles and those little squares that may or may not drive you nuts. When you're over here in your 2D view, when you're over here in the Bitmap Trace tool, use your noise filter to your advantage. Now, if it starts eliminating detail you want to keep, back it down, preview it again. Not all automatic tools are going to get everything you want eliminated automatically. Sometimes it's a balancing act. Sometimes you will have to go in and delete a bunch manually. But using that noise filter will certainly help cut down on the amount of manual editing you have to do. Next, I'm going to try to clear up a little bit of confusion when it comes to using a separate last pass in a profile toolpath. Let's go ahead and draw a circle out here. I'm going to make it a pretty large circle, 12-inch diameter. And then I'm going to draw another one with a 10-inch diameter. We'll create that. And I'll close it. Now I want to use this vector to cut an outside profile and this vector to cut an inside profile. So let's go over to the Toolpaths tab. I'll select the outside vector and I'll do a 2D profile toolpath cutting through the material with a 1/4-inch end mill. Now, here's where we need to pay attention. I'm going to be cutting this in 6 passes. That's fine. I'm going to machine to the outside of this vector. I want to do a separate last pass with an allowance of 10,000ths of an inch. Now that's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm going to name this profile cutout, and we'll calculate that toolpath. I get the warning it's going to cut through the material. That's fine. Turn that off, close it, go back to my 2D view, and I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to calculate another 2D profile toolpath. But this time I want to cut to the inside of this vector. I want to do a separate last pass with an allowance of 0.01. And we'll call this inside profile. I'll calculate it. I'm getting the warning that it's going to cut through the material, and that's fine. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select both of these toolpaths and rock back my 3D view here. Then zoom in and kind of try to get close. If we look, here are the first 5 passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we remember the color code here, red is a rapid move. It's going to move over, and we see a light blue line here. Now, if I zoom in closer, this one appears to be green. Green is a retract move. Light blue is a plunge move. Dark blue is a cut on inside or outside of the vector. This green line here is actually a light blue line and a green line. It's going to wrap it over and cut, plunge down, and make its first pass. Then its second pass. Then its third pass. Fourth, fifth. Then it will retract out of the material, move over, inside, move to the inside, that 10,000ths of an inch, and then plunge all the way down through the material and cut this last toolpath. Work its way around and lift out. Now, we can see this if we go over to our 2D view, and I'll shut off the outside profile, and we'll just focus on the inside profile here first for a second. If I zoom way in, this is showing me the 2 toolpaths. Here's my start point. It's in green. This toolpath is the first 5 passes. If I zoom out, we can see this is the inside profile. This is the first 5 passes. It's going to cut out here in this area. It'll plunge in, cut the first pass. Work its way back to here, plunge down again, make the second pass. It will do that for the first 5 passes. Then retract out of the material, move over that 10,000ths of an inch, plunge down the full depth and make that last pass all the way through the material on this toolpath, cutting the entire thickness of the material. Work its way around until it gets back to this point, lift out of the material, and wrap it back over to 0. Same thing out here on the outside vector. If I turn it on, turn off the inside profile, I'm machining to the outside of this vector. It's going to cut the first 5 passes out here. Then when it gets to that 6th pass, it'll come back around here, lift up, out of the material, move over to this point, plunge back in, and then cut this way, the entire thickness of the material in one pass. If I go back over here get my measuring tool and zoom in, and I'll put right here on this start point and measure down here to this point. You can see up there at the top left where it says distance, 0.01. It's 10,000ths of an inch. So, that is an illustration of how this works. Now, let me show you a source of confusion. Center back up here. Go back over to my Toolpaths tab. I'll shut off my profile cutout, and I'll turn on my inside profile. One of the questions I keep getting is, I'm cutting to the inside. When I calculate my toolpath, shouldn't this be a negative number? Because I want it to cut 10,000ths to the inside. The answer is no. You cannot enter a negative number here. I'll try it. We have an allowance of 10,000ths of an inch. I'll make that a negative 10,000ths. I'll calculate the toolpath. Now if I go back into it, that negative is gone. It will not accept a negative number. The software knows you want to cut to the inside of that vector right here. And when you enter this allowance of 10,000ths, it knows it needs to move to the inside 10,000ths. If I change this to the outside and calculate it, it now knows it needs to cut to the outside 10,000ths. So the software knows which direction it needs to go. Putting a negative number here is not necessary, and in fact just doesn't work, because the software already knows which way it needs to go. The only thing you can change here is how much of an allowance you use. Now, I use 10,000ths of an inch because just about every bit I own is capable of machining off 10,000ths of an inch of material 3/4 of an inch thick. And it cleans up the edge of the profile and removes any witness marks, removes any plunge marks, etc. Now, this is an option I don't think I've ever shown before. If you want to double check out here on your 2D view, you can see when I have a check mark placed in these toolpaths, it illustrates the toolpaths out here using a wireframe. You can set this to show you the solid toolpath by coming up here to this icon, Toggle Toolpath 2D Drawing Style, wireframe or solid. I'll click on that, and now all of a sudden it's showing me this thick blue line. That's showing you where the tool is going to cut, right up onto this vector. So this comes in real handy if you're using an odd piece of material, or you want to place mounting screws or clamps out here, and you want to know how close you're going to get to the edge of your material. You can calculate your outside profile cut and then come back over to your 2D view and click on, again, it's this icon right here, and it will give you a solid representation of where that tool is going to go. So you can look to see, all right, it's going to clear a screw here, and it'll clear a screw here. And then to go back to the standard wireframe, just click it again, and there's our wireframe toolpaths. So, I hope that clears up confusion on how the separate last pass works. It is not a separate toolpath that can be calculated with separate G-code. It is calculated as part of this profile toolpath. So, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, I do hope you'll give me a thumbs up. Now, just as a reminder, I will be hosting a live Q&A session this afternoon at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we can discuss everything I've talked about in this video and answer other questions you may or may not have. That's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on my YouTube channel. And I'll put a link to that live Q&A down in the description of this video. So I hope you'll join me this afternoon. And if you'd like to follow along with my further CNC adventures, I do hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Then, when you subscribe to my channel, click that little bell icon right next to that subscribe button and click it again and set that for all notifications. That way you'll be notified the next time I post a video and the next time I go live. And, as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and y'all take care.